Hello students. So in this video I'm going to talk about problems 6 and 7 from Handout 1A and 9 and 10, which is the same topic. This is some intervals that I'm giving you, and we have to convert those into set builder notation, and then we have to graph that interval on a number line as well. Okay, so I'm going to explain a little bit what the symbols, what these parentheses and brackets mean, and what the difference is between those. Okay, so first of all, or the way I like to think about it is the interval is going to contain two numbers, right? One where it starts and one where it ends. So it's a set of numbers, it's a group of numbers that we're talking about. And just to make everything easier, I want you to think about integers right now. We're not going to talk about decimals or roots or any other number. Okay, just integers. Let's say -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Assuming there's no other number in between, just to make the explanation a little bit simpler. Okay, so over here, if I want to explain this interval as a set of numbers, right? Instead of having it as an interval, I want to know a set of numbers. What this means is I have to write all of the numbers that are in between -1 and 8. Okay, so let me just write those numbers first. -1 all the way to 8. -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can think that those are the numbers that are included in this interval, right? But that might not be correct. We have to look at the symbols. Now, the parenthesis, it is very, very important. It means that this is the last number, but this number is not included into the interval. Okay, so parentheses, I'm just going to put a note over here. Let's put it in black. Parentheses, not included. So in reality, this number is not going to be part of this set. Okay, I'm just going to put the brackets to denote that this is a set. Okay, so that means that -1 is not going to be part of the set. I cannot include it. Okay, this is thinking about integers only. Okay, of course, there might be some other numbers in here, right? Like -0.1, that is also part of it, right? All the way to -0.9 and so on and so forth. But we're not talking about decimals, okay? So everything all the way to -1 except -1. That is not included. Okay. On the other hand, or on the other end of the interval, I have a number 8 and I have a bracket. Okay, so what is the meaning of a bracket? Bracket means included. So that number is part of my interval that I'm talking about. Okay, so 8, can I include 8 into my set of numbers? Yes, right, because it has a bracket in there. Okay, so this will be transformed into a set of numbers. This is not the answer, but it comes in handy to understand what those parentheses and brackets mean. Okay, so I'm going to erase this because what it wants us to convert it is to set builder notation. Okay, so we basically want all of the numbers that are in between -1 and 8, not including -1, but including 8. So how are we going to denote this as a set builder notation? Okay, set builder, the answer is going to be x. Why is x? Because there's a lot of numbers, right? As you saw a couple seconds ago, it can be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a bunch of different numbers that can be part of this set, and we're going to denote that as x as long as, and I'm going to write my numbers that I have in here, right? -1 and 8. So I have to write the interval, or well, the set builder notation with the symbols of less than, or less than, or less than, that's the first symbol, or less than or equal. And it depends on the parenthesis or the bracket. Okay, so this less than symbol, it means that the number has to be less than. It cannot be equal to that number, right? So it has to be less than or more than, right? If you have the symbol like this. But the other symbol means that it can be less than and it can also be equal, right? So it looks more like the bracket symbol, right? Of course, that or this symbols. Okay, so for my parentheses, the symbol that I'm going to be using is the greater than or the less than symbol. Okay, and for my bracket, the symbol that I'm going to be using is the more than or equal or less than or equal symbols. Okay, less than or equal, we'll keep it like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what this means into the set builder notation. So I want to denote all the numbers that are in between -1 and 8. So -1, is -1 included into my set? We already defined that -1 is not included. So it means that x, it cannot be -1, right? It has to be greater than -1, but it cannot be -1. That's why parentheses always goes by hand with the less than symbol. Okay, and then I have my x, right? -1 is less than x, so it means that x has to be greater. And then on the other end, all the way to 8, and that has a bracket, and bracket means that it can be 8, right? The value, it can be 8. If we write again this set over here, -1, always the -1 is not included, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8 can be part of it because it has a bracket in there. Okay, so for 8, we're going to use this symbol because x has to be less than 8, or it can also be equal to 8, right? Because that's what the bracket says. So you're basically relating the symbol of bracket and parentheses to less than or equal. Okay, that's what you're looking at, if it's included or if it's not included. So it looks like 8 less than or equal to 8, and that's where I close my set building notation. This is my set building notation. That's the answer that I'm looking for. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do the other examples, but we also have to graph that into a line, and graphing into a line is really simple. Okay, you have your 0 here. I'm gonna write my line. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and on the left side all the way to -1, right? My interval, if you look at your interval, it goes from -1 to 8. So the line is going to go from -1 all the way to 8. Does it include -1? We go back to our interval, we see it has a parenthesis, so it means that that is not going to be included. So I'm going to put a parenthesis as well in here. Okay, and on the other end, we go back to our interval. We see that's an 8 with a bracket, so that means the line is going to have a bracket in there. Okay, at number 8. And this is what my line is going to look like. Okay, this is set building notation. This is graphing the interval on a number line. Okay, let me go a little bit quicker on the other ones just so that I don't distract you so much. So let's look at my interval from -9 all the way to 6. So my numbers are -9, -8, -7. I'm just gonna do this 3 dots all the way to, let's say, 4, 5, 6. Now let's see which are the numbers that are included. Remember that parenthesis means included. Bracket means included. So that means that -9, that should be in my set of numbers. On the other end, 6 is not going to be included. So that means that this 6 shouldn't be there. Okay, extends all the way to 6, but it doesn't reach 6. So it looks like my interval or my set of numbers is going to be from -9 all the way to 6. This is talking about the integers, right? Of course, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3 are also part of the set, right? 5.9, 5.99, as long as it doesn't reach 6, because the interval says parentheses, and parentheses means does not include. Okay, so let's see what this is going to look like as a set building notation. Can you see that the answer is going to be several numbers, right? So the answer is going to be x, as long as or such that, and what is my lowest number? -9. The symbol that I'm going to include, which is the symbol related to a bracket, right? We say that brackets, the symbol has to be less than or equal, because it can be, it has to be greater than that number, and it can also be the same thing, okay? Or -9 has to be less than the value, or it can also be that value. So I'm going to put the symbol of the bracket, less than or equal, x, and then what is the next symbol that I'm going to place in there? I have to go back and see my interval. 6 parentheses and parentheses. We said that parentheses is going to be, use the less than symbol. Okay, so parentheses means less than, and what is my last number of the interval? 6. Okay, so a symbol with the bracket, that's my symbol with the bracket, and my symbol with the parentheses. Okay, and of course the line is going to be really simple. This line is going to go, that's my 0. It goes from -9 all the way to 6. So that's where my line is going to reach. -9, it has a bracket, so I'm just going to place a bracket in there. And 6 has a parenthesis. Okay, so this is what my line is going to look like. Parenthesis on 6, bracket on 9. Okay. For the next example, let me just move these guys a little bit down here. So what happens if I have two brackets? That's going to be the same thing, right? What is going to be my set of numbers? Let me just write it in here really quick. From -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, my integers. Now let's look at the symbols that I have. I have a bracket which means included, and I also have another bracket which means included. So that means that -3 and 5 are going to stay on that set of numbers. Okay, those are part of the set of numbers, or the interval. So let's go ahead and do the set builder notation. The result, there's a lot of numbers in there, so x as long as or such that -3, and what is going to be my symbol for a bracket? Less than or equal. The number has to be, or -3 has to be less than or equal to that number. And what is the next symbol that I'm going to put? I also have a bracket, so I also have the same symbol, right? Less than or equal to, what's my last number on the set? 5. Set builder notation. And the line goes from -3. Let's say that's my 0. This is my 5. This is my -3 over here. So it means that that line is going to extend from -3 all the way to -5, to +5, excuse me. So I'm going to place a bracket because I have a bracket in the interval, and I have another bracket on the other part of the interval, right? So that's what I'm looking for as a line. The last example, it looks very similar to the top one, but it has a parenthesis. So let's write my interval. I'm just going to write all the numbers: -4, -3, -2, and all of the numbers that go there, then 6, 7, 8, all the way to 8. Now I have two parentheses in this case, so that means that the line goes all the way to -4 and all the way to 8, but it doesn't include those numbers. So those numbers should not be part of the set, right? Those are not included. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase those. Okay, so those are my only integers that are part of that set that I have in there. Okay, let's go ahead and build the set builder notation, or do the set builder notation. A lot of numbers, so x to represent several numbers, such that, or as long as. What is my smaller number? -4. What's going to be the symbol related to a parenthesis? Less than. X, and the symbol related to another parenthesis is less than as well. 8. That's my set builder notation. And my line, of course, that's going to be easy now, right? From -4 all the way to, what is the number on the interval? 8. Those are my numbers from here, right? So that's where my line goes, from -4 all the way to 8. Does it include -4? No, so I'm going to put a parenthesis. Does it include 8? According to the interval, it does not include 8. So I'm going to put a parenthesis. That means that the line extends all the way to -4 all the way to 8 without including those two numbers. Okay. So this is basically it for those 4 examples regarding set builder notation and graphing intervals in the number line. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel and let me know if you have any other questions.